Hello. Now we're going to think a little bit harder about radicals or square roots and what they actually are and what you can do with them. So let's take a very basic example, the square root of 2x. Well, what can we do with this? Let's say I'm going to add with this value 3 times the square root of 2x. What would I get? This would be equal to 4 times the square root of 2x. Now, why does this actually work? If you treat anything inside the radical as a variable, it's a little bit easier to understand. So if I had, instead of the square root of 2x, y plus 3y, what do I get? 4y. Very simple. You can always kind of visualize this the same way. And if you're still having a hard time understanding, the reason why it's 4y is because y is technically 1 times y. And similarly, you can imagine that this is actually 1 times the square root of 2x. So you're basically taking the number in the front, the 1, plus the 3, get the 4. Now, why does the radical not change? Well, that's a good question. The radical doesn't change just like the variable. The variable does not change when you add two of the same variable together. Just as when we did y plus 3y is 4y, it did not change. When does it change? It changes when you multiply. So if we were to take maybe our example again of the square root of 2x, and instead we were to multiply it with 3 times the square root of 2x. Well, let's imagine if we did this with the y's. If we took y times 3y, what would we get? We would get 3y squared. Why is that? Because we would add the exponents. There's a 1 here and a 1 here. They're all being raised to the first power. We just usually don't write that y is to the first power because anything to the first power is just itself. So when we're multiplying these radicals, what's going to happen is, I've talked about this a little bit before, is that if you multiply two radicals together, this is kind of the same thing as if you were to square them. The 3 is going to stay the same, and you're actually going to get the square root of 2x squared. That's because you're multiplying 2x squared, or the square root of 2x squared, the square root of 2x times the square root of 2x. This times this. And what is the square root of 2x squared? Well, that's just, if you bring the 3 over, you're going to get 2x. And what is that equal to? Well, 3 times 2 is 6. Keep the x. In the next video, I'll show you a different way you can kind of see the same multiplication process work out, and it might make even more sense looking at it that way.